Well, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. So tonight we're going to try a bravery test. I've just come out with one lens and I've brought the nifty 50, so I've got a 50mm lens. Probably not the best for getting wide landscape shots, but you know what, I'm going to try it. Let's see how we go on. So join me and let's see where this journey takes us. Right, so there's a fair bit of water in the river tonight. So the river that I'm walking round is a local river to me called the River Allen. So what I'll do is I'll turn the camera around so you can see what I've got to climb down. So what I'll do is I will turn the camera off, I'll make my way down and I'll catch up with you when I get to the bottom. Alright, so we've made it. So we've got two challenges tonight. So the first challenge is I am only using the 50mm lens, and the second challenge is the sun is right across the opposite side of the river that I'm going to be walking on. But that's okay, because what I want to use the 50mm for is creative photography as well. So whilst we'll take some shots of the river, some of the trees, we might be able to get some nice creative shots so that we can get some really nice bokeh and blur out the background, because I'm using the Sigma 50mm F1.4. So let's see, what I've got ahead of me is this. So I'm just hoping that water looks pretty shallow. So what I'd like to try and do is get a first composition with the sun behind me and shoot down into the rivers. So what we've got here under the bridge, you've got two rivers confluencing into one. So on the left hand side we've got the River Nake, on the right hand side we've got the River Allen, and as they confluence, this now forms the River Allen that flows all the way down through Bridge of Allen, and it meets the Forth in Stirling. Right, I'm just crossing over. I'm going to see if there's any compositions. That looks quite nice. What I don't know is how will the 50mm handle it, but I'll set the camera up. I'll get a filter on so we can put a polarizer on, because using the small camera we've got some really nice deep blues. I'm hoping I can replicate that with the bigger camera. So we'll catch back soon and let's see how we get on. Alright, so for my first image, what I'm noticing is I'm trying to get, using the 50mm lens, I can't zoom in, I can't zoom out. I've only got that 50mm focal length, but what it is doing is it's giving me a really nice detailed image, and I've got a really nice blend using the polarizer of the water contrasting with the sky, and I think I'm dead on the bridge, even though I've got a bit of the bridge on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot down the sides, see if I can get shots of the reeds, because they look quite nice and I like the reflections. I'm going to move a little bit forward, but what I'll do is I'll take some images from here, and then those images I take, I'll share them with you now. So I'm playing about with depth of field. So there's a broken brick in front of me, but I've got all the pebbles on the riverbed here. But what I'm trying to do is use f2 aperture so that if I focus on the pebbles, it'll completely make the background out of focus. And equally, if I shoot in the background and focus in the background, it'll make my foreground out of focus. So what I'll do is, as I'm taking these shots, I'll show you the images, because I keep talking about aperture, and this lens can go to the aperture f1.4, so that allows it to give me huge depth of field. And you'll hear about bokeh from time to time, where you get an image, something sharp, and then especially using lights, you get all the circles of the lights in the background completely out of focus. And that's what I'm trying to experiment with tonight, just because I've got the one lens. So what I'll do is, there's a rock in the middle of the river there, so I'll take a shot and I'll focus on the rock, and I'll just play around and I'll look for other subjects to see where I can actually get best use of depth of field, shallow depth of field. And there might be something with the running water over here, I'm not quite sure. It's actually quite tricky, because it's something I've never really kind of focused on before, as in just use one lens, limit myself, but then try and exploit the features of that lens as much as possible. So whatever I take, I'll share those images with you now. Right, so I've seen there's a tuft of grass here, and the reason I'm taking a shot at the tuft of grass is there's 2-3 grasses sticking up. They've got a really dark background, and then I can see the sun reflecting on the bridge in the background. But I've reduced my f-stop to f1.4 and I've got ISO 100, but what that means is my image gets really bright because I've got a really low f number. So what I've then got to do in order to compensate for that is I've got to increase my shutter speed. So I'm now shooting at 800th of a second, and that gives me a nice light. So, do you know, I'm really struggling with this tonight. I probably didn't pick the best location to try this. What would have probably been better was flowers. But what I'll do is I'll persevere, because the sun's still hitting the bridge. It's went down behind the trees there, which means I'll need to walk across the river and walk round the bank to try and get some extra light. But there's some reeds down here, so let me see what images we can capture here, and I'll catch back with you soon. Right. I tell you, I give myself quite a tough challenge tonight, because actually I love this lens. This lens is amazing in the dark. It is just incredible, and it's a Sigma 50mm 1.4. It's an amazing lens. It's amazing quality feel. It's really smooth. But from a focal length, I feel really restricted because I've come here to get closer to the bridge, and I completely forgot I'm still shooting at the same focal length and I can't go wide. So what I'm having to do now is really look for a composition. So I want to keep the bridge in shot. So what I'm doing is I'm now shooting through the bridge, just at a different angle, just to see what type of different image I can get. And then what I've got is the last of the sun hitting these reeds. So what I might do is turn round. There's some reeds on their own. There's 2 clumps of reeds, and then there's a set of reeds there. So I'll focus on them. I'm still keeping a really shallow depth of field, just so that I can blur everything out. And once I've taken these images, I'll share them with you now. Right, let's see if we can get our way over this stream. It looks pretty deep. Oh, in some places, in fact, it's really deep. In some places. Alright, so we're over the other side. Fab. And that's a really nice view. I think I'll take a shot here actually. So I'm going to take a shot here because from a 50mm perspective that could be wide enough. Right, so I've stayed here a wee bit longer because whilst I was taking shots I wanted to test the depth of field shots, and I've now got F2. I'm at 320th of a second, ISO 50, and what I'm doing is I'm just focusing in certain areas, because the reason is the colours in front of me are absolutely stunning with the sun reflecting on the water, and I'm really hoping I can capture the ambience of the light, but equally there's a lot of contrast underneath the bridge now, so when I do a shallow depth of field, the darks are getting darker in the distance, and it's actually quite therapeutic. However, it is quite frustrating. So I'm finished here. Let's walk on and let's see if we can find something a wee bit more different. Right, so as I walk round the edge of the field, I'm now hitting the sun. So I turn the camera around, it's going to be difficult for you to see where I am. But what I want to try and look for is kind of any plants that are being backlit by the sun, that when I turn round are lit up, and then I might be able to get some close shots, and they might be some nice depth of field images. So what I'll do is I'll keep walking until I find something that looks nice, and I'll catch you back soon. Right, so the wind's picking up and I'm losing the sun, and I come in here because I thought there's a really nice composition here of these tree stumps that are being lit up. So here's what I'm discovering. I'm still at my fixed focal length of 50mm. I'm going to turn in and grab that sun before it goes away. But it means that for me to zoom in, I'm going to have to do that in post and crop it. So I've just managed to get a couple of shots there. But if I turn the camera around, I'm going to shoot in to the sun. I've got the river in front of me. I'm trying to get a composition here where, wow. What I'll do is I'll just walk to the edge of the river and we'll see if we can turn the camera around and get a portrait shot, but get a portrait shot as the river bends. I haven't seen any nice flowers. I haven't seen any thistles. Having said that, there's a wee thistle there, but the wind's really quick, but then that might work. So I'll tell you what we'll do is, I'll set up my composition for that wee thistle. I'll increase the shutter speed, a fast shutter speed. I'll put it to F1.4 because that's what I'll need for the light to freeze it. I'll give it a bash. If that works, then that'll be a really good example of shallow depth of field on a flower. I'll share that image with you now. Right, I think I got that thistle. Time will tell. That took a while. I had to get up to a 500th of a second just to freeze it. Right, I'm just looking for a composition here. It's quite windy, so it's hard, especially for the 50mm lens, it's hard to get something steady to get a really good depth of field. What I'll do is there's a wee composition here. I'm not quite sure if the 50mm will be too close or too far, but I'll set it up and then I'll talk you through it. Right, this is tricky because it's getting quite dark here, but we're shooting into the light, which means the cameras are going to darken down, and I'm sure that wee camera will darken down. It'll be difficult to see me as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bracket exposure, and I'll have about 4 or 5 different images, from an underexposed image to a normal image to an overexposed image, and I need the overexposed image to bring out the highlights and the shadows in the foreground for me. So I'll take that shot. I've focused in just past that tree on the left hand side. The good thing is, well, from what I can see at the back of the camera, the good thing is, where I was concerned that the 50mm might not have a wide enough field, the composition I've actually got here is actually quite nice. It's quite tight. Not the prettiest of scenes tonight, but you've got to experiment somewhere, and this is on my doorstep. Right, I'm going to keep walking because I've got a funny feeling if I move a wee bit further forward, if I flip the camera over to portrait, there might be a chance of getting quite a nice wee shot. Right, let's keep walking and let's see what we can find. I did a 5-shot panoramic there, so what I'll do is, if that turned out, I'll share that image with you just now. This could be quite a tight shot. Yeah, it is. So I've still got that tree on the left hand side, but what I'm aiming for here is the sky. The sky is really nice. The sun's went behind the clouds, and I'm just going to check. Oh wow, yeah, the sky is really nice. Right, I'm going to walk round a wee bit more and see what more we can get. I'm actually looking for some interesting flowers, because from a shallow depth of field, that's turning out to be probably one of the best effects I can get, because if that thistle turned out the way I thought it did, that could be quite a nice image. Anyway, we'll keep walking, and if we don't see anything, we'll probably call it a So I'm just going to finish up here because I'm getting beat by the light. This is pretty, it's tranquil. So what you can see is I've set up the back of the camera here. I've got my focal point. I've got my bracket exposure set up as well. And it'll take, so if I show you from the back of the camera, if I go back, you can see the light to dark. It says a really dark exposure going through the range, and then we've got a bright exposure. That's what I'm looking for. So hopefully, I'm saying hopefully, from an experimentation point of view, this has been pretty tough. I probably picked the wrong time of night. I probably picked the wrong location, but I went out for a walk. Yeah, so 50mm, it's fantastic for night time if you're walking about streets. It's a brilliant camera for that. Landscape, I was going to say it's pretty restrictive. It's good to experiment. It's great having that depth of field so that you can have certain things in focus, and then you can blow out backgrounds, blow out foregrounds. It's really nice if you've got a really nice flower. I'm just hoping that that one little thistle that I caught tonight does stand out, because it'll make it worthwhile. And then I'll reserve judgment until I've processed the images from a landscape point of view to see how well it caught the colours, how well it caught the highlights, the reflections on the water. I know it took me a wee while to get started because I wasn't used to that fixed focal length, because I was moving closer to subjects where I would normally go wide in another lens. And as soon as I moved closer, it got closer. So yeah, a lot of learning tonight. Anyway. Here's hoping I can make a video out of this. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because you know it's free. And if you press the bell notification, that will let you know the next time I post a video. So thanks very much for watching, and here's to the next video.